So I'm Janet DeVries, I'm the Director of Career Services here at Casper College. And I do like to talk to groups that are going on trips prior to the trip, so hopefully you can be thinking about, as I say, the test questions in advance of the test. And so if you think about the trip as your test, and then when you come back, I know you're required to do a presentation. If you think about the presentation before you go, then maybe you'll be able to collect information in a more thoughtful way than just when you're on the plane on the way home thinking, oh geez, we have to do a presentation, what are we going to talk about? Now, I come from this from an employment standpoint, and this is based on some research done at Michigan State, where they, their career services were doing presentations to students after they came back from study abroad, trying to help them understand how they could explain their experience to a potential employer. So when the employer looked at their resume and they saw, oh, I see you did a study abroad in Guatemala, tell me about that. And the students were stumped on how to explain their experience. And what they tended to do was talk about the fun things. Oh yeah, the babes were really beautiful, or you wouldn't believe the pubs that we went to. And it was a really fun trip. Now, those things are all true, but that's probably not what the employer wants to hear. And so what Michigan State came up with, they interviewed lots of employers and said, what do you want to know when a student comes back from an international experience? So on this handout, I have given you the top competencies or skills that an employer is interested in learning about after you come back from this experience. So if you can turn those into questions, really, give me an example of how you interacted with people who hold different interests, values, or perspectives. Now, you're going to be meeting people, you're going to be in this panel discussion, you're going to be going to hospitals, different places, lectures with different faculty members. So maybe you're going to be learning how they view medical healthcare differently than we do in the United States. Or the book that Jennifer has just provided you. She talked already about how that gave her a whole different perspective of genocide and what happened, and how that makes you think differently and maybe view things differently than what we read in the media here in the United States, for example. The next one, understanding cultural differences in the workplace. Again, you're going to be visiting the hospital, and for those of you in nursing, you've had experiences in our hospital. How do the doctors and nurses interact in those hospitals versus here? And so beginning to understand those things and being able to articulate it is the tricky part. So as you keep journals and other methods of recording your trip, I would ask that you begin to think about these competencies and give specific examples. And this will help you when you come home and your friends and classmates say, wow, what did you do on this trip? What did you learn? What did you get from it? By being able to give examples of these competencies or skills, I think it will get you to a much deeper level than the fun stuff. So that's the first thing that I want you to think about. The second thing is, on your schedule, you've got some free time. You'll be perhaps interacting with people at meals, and maybe you'll get to go out to dinner or lunch or something with some other students or faculty. And you might think of those as, whoa, this is social time, we don't need to be doing any homework, so to speak. But this is actually a perfect time for you to work on some of these questions and actually incorporate the educational piece into your social time. So that's why now Michigan State does exactly what I'm doing. They talk to the groups, the students, before they go abroad and start planting these ideas in your mind so you can think about the test questions before the test instead of after the trip or after the test. Do you have questions or thoughts for me? Let me give you a specific example to maybe help illustrate this. I was on a vacation in Ecuador a couple of summers ago, and the lodge that I was staying at in the Amazon, there was a group from a university there. They were on a service learning trip for a month, and they were doing some dental clinics at this lodge because there was a school and a medical clinic there and so on. And then the students were broken into groups. They all had to do a service learning project while they were there. So when their faculty found out that I was giving these talks to Casper College students, she said, hey, would you talk to my students? And so I started asking the students, so what is your project going to be? Well, you're here for 12 days. Well, they hadn't come up with any projects. They were, sort of kicking some things around, brainstorming within their groups. And I said, now, aren't you the same students that I saw in the little village that's just, yards away from the tourist lodge, and you were over there drinking beer at the bar. There were locals. You were watching people play volleyball, the local people, and the school is right next door. So there were lots of the villagers right there with them. But they were on their free time. So the students stayed in their little group. They didn't interact with the local people. And that would have been a perfect time for them to strike up a conversation and say, what are your needs here? What would you like us to do? We've got 25 students here, and what can we do to help you while we're here? And after the fact, I learned about another service group that had come to that same area, and they had, it was a church group in that particular case, and they had built a beautiful chapel, very sturdy building, whereas everybody else is living on houses on stilts because they're right by the river and everything. And come to find out, the villagers never used that chapel, except in huge rainstorms and other bad weather, because they weren't Christians. So why would they use a Christian church that had been built by a Christian missionary group? So while the people who did that mission thought they had really done something good for the villagers, in the end, it wasn't what the villagers needed. So that's why I think it's really important to take opportunities, even during your social times, your free times, to just casually interact with people. And you may be able to answer some of these questions as well as your own while you're there, but get it in a less formal way. Thank you very much.
I think that's really good. I think what you said about interacting with people so that we can know what their needs are. And also I think what I really want to shift my perspective in, this might sound bad, is not even how can I help you, but how can I learn from you? Then we come in with a different attitude, not like, oh, we're the big Americans coming in to help you out, but we come in a humble way, actually, saying we're coming in to learn from you. We believe that you have something to contribute. We believe that you have something that's working for you, and we want to know about it, and we want to learn from it, and take it back and grow. Maybe incorporate it into our own way in whatever capacity that might be, and so then we can, even so we can learn, and maybe if there is a place where we can help eventually, then we would be better informed about that, because I kick around ideas about, oh, how can I help, how can I make things better, and realize I don't know I don't know them. I don't know what their needs are. I don't know what their situation is. I can't design some big project and say this is what I'm going to do to help them if I've never even talked to people about it. That's one of the reasons why I really want to go to the hospital, so I can see it. And